Hello, everybody. I just had my voice lesson how to talk more Scottish, and I hope you like my voice. Oh my goodness, this is video 673. I just completed my first voice lesson. I just wanted to make a couple notes. Let me be very, very clear. I am not going to disclose anything that I learned in the video to teach someone else how to do voice training. I just wanted to do a little bit of my reaction to it. Uh, I'm not going to give away any secrets, let me put you that way, for fear of being sued. But also, these people make their living by doing voice training, and so I don't want to take away their what they've shared with me, you know, and it's just the way it is. So, just a couple really cool things. I uh, Going into it, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know. I kind of anticipated at some point the presenter would tip their hat, as it were, and I don't necessarily know if that's the right way of saying it, but that they would go down into where their old voice used to be, and I have to kind of rethink my terminology here, because I want to say their old voice or the voice they were born with, or the male voice, for lack of a better word. I'm going to say their starting voice. Starting voice. And sure enough, they did. And it was like, you know, uh, talking with somebody, la 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 la. I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, out of this cute little thing came the voice of a Balrog. I mean, it's okay. So, and that I was kind of embarrassed, not embarrassed by it, but it gives a person cred, gives a person a lot of street cred, give a lot of cred, a lot of credibility. Number one, if they tip their hat or they show you the progress that they made, it's like, you know, um, a swordsman showing you their sword. I mean, it's like, the craftsmanship. Um, so that was kind of cool, and a lot of science behind um, how our voices are, how they function. And I can't really go much more into that without disclosing what I learned. So I'm not. Um, but So that was kind of cool. Um, One thing that I can tell I'm pumped up about it, but one thing that I hinted on not that long ago, but um, I'm trying to think how I can articulate this. Um, I'm often wondered about how we define ourselves in our voice. How we define ourselves in our voice. Obviously, when we start out and we're, a certain body type, and we go through this process, and chemically we tell our DNA to, okay, instead of using the male blueprints, I want you to use the female blueprints. And I won't go too much into the history and the biology of your DNA, other than just to say is that when you were born with both male and female DNA blueprints. And it just so happens, and I'm drawing a blank here, it's not mRNA. There's a certain name for it. How much activity that gene is, it decides to go with the female, go with the male. Okay, and then you that's how you end up having the sex organs that you have, your testes and gonads and all that wonderful stuff. So from the get-go, and obviously is a basis for how our transitions are possible, is those blueprints are there, and we carry them with us obviously our entire life. And so when we decide to transition, we're like, hey, start to build this set of blueprints and not that set of blueprints. Start sending chemicals, start sending the raw materials where it needs to be. Okay, we're gonna move the fat and cell tissues, and up there we're gonna recycle them, and we're gonna move and make your face a little curvier. Fill out some breasts and fill out your sides and whatnot, and then up your muscle tissue up here. Again, start to recycle some of that. It goes down, it gets redistributed, right? Recycled, reused. That physical identity is who you are. And that changes. Another identity is your mental identity. As your body, and I don't claim to understand the science, and I'm not a doctor. Okay, I don't play one on TV, and I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But as those chemicals work in our brain, much like they alter our physical form in our body, they're changing those neural pathways. Things are getting recycled, reused, and you begin to develop a more feminine mind. And of course, if you're taking hormones and you're on any sort of cyclic thing, you're with that estrogen. When it comes in your body's like, wee, estrogen, woo. If you get that shot, psh, and then after a couple of days, you kind of go down. A week or two, you go down. Welcome to menopause, right? And then you get that injection, and woo, go back up again. Okay. And I guess if in our bodies, if it was without the estrogen, the organs would inject, start produce so many units of estrogen, release it in the body, and wait a little while ago, every month, cyclic. So you have mental changes. So physical, we have mental, and out of that is the presentation. If it was D&D, it would be someone else's perception of you. But it is how other people see you. Okay? And unfortunately, we're so caught up in our own visual, how we see ourselves. We look in the mirror and we keep seeing the same person. We don't see the changes. But someone else who hasn't seen us for a while, they'll see those physical changes and they're like, there's something about you that's changing. Something's not right. And it takes a good 7 months. I'm a big 7th monther. If you're transitioning, as I've said before, I highly recommend you get a calendar, circle the day you started hormones, and then go 7 months in the future, and almost don't even, the changes are going to be so slight because you see them every day, but someone who doesn't see you maybe once a month, they're going to start to go, something different about you, and by the 7th month, there's enough of a gestalt change you can see it yourself. But we're getting off track. Let's go back to what I was talking about before. We talked about physical changes. We talked about mental changes, okay, and how you project yourself. You project your inner self through your outer self. Body language, your thoughts and whatnot. But there is another facet to that. And that's what this video is about. Your voice. Your voice. Not necessarily your pitch. Not necessarily your intonation. Not necessarily the words you use. And again, I don't want to say anything that I just learned. So I'm trying to keep it to common knowledge. And you can watch my other videos. I've done a little bit of looking into it, but by no means am I an expert. But it's that presentation through your voice, and obviously your body language, your nonverbal clues are going to be there too. But it's been said the eyes are the gateway to the soul, and I think the pouring forth of personality is so much into our voice, and that can be shackle some of our inner personalities and some of our inner dynamics. And that's something that I would like to loosen. I feel like in many respects, part of my personality has been ratcheted back, for lack of a better word. Ratcheted back. And, you know, being able to articulate or project your thoughts into actions through your words and how you sound, it's like, it's so important. So I think that's the third leg of that stool. That's a tripod. The third leg of that is that, you know, again, you got your physical, your mental, but then how you communicate with other people. That communication. It's a communication. And I know that it's hard for me to speak right now because I'm not on estrogen. Okay, I've not been on estrogen since October because of the threat of blood clots. So that's where I talk about me feeling like flat, like a board. You know, my personality's flat. But when I was on the estrogen, there were parts of me I feel, you know, deep inside of me that helped. It was like unlocking parts of my emotions, my personality, and I could come out and project using that voice. And to a certain degree of freedom, there's a certain degree of freedom to being able to do that. And I almost feel like with a deeper voice, I have more gravitas when I speak. You know, I can resonate not only my ideas and my theories with this firm foundation to you, but I'm also giving you resonance. I'm giving you a deep foundation that you can build upon. Okay. And in that same way, masculinity, you can go the other route with a feminine voice. You can be more effeminate. Okay, and there are other qualities, more aerial qualities, more ephemeral qualities, more delicate, for lack of a better word. Well, effeminate. Okay, delicate. It doesn't mean weak, but you know, if it was a material, the masculine would be maybe a piece of steel that's been beaten, you know, or copper that's been beaten into a shape and it's hard, and da 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 da. The feminine might be lacy ribbon, you know, decorative, very delicate. Doesn't mean one's better than the other. Doesn't mean, you know, I wouldn't build a house out of ribbon, but then you probably wouldn't want to build a house out of beaten brass either, you know. So anyway. But I wanted to mark the time because I'm kind of curious as I am presented with the opportunity to use the tools that were provided to me. I'm wondering if, number one, some of those inner things, those inner femininity, inner feminine things that I can't articulate now, if maybe those will be given a voice, for lack of a better word. Those will be given permission to leave and to for me to interact, to interface with the world and those around me in a different way than I can right now. And as excited as I am to see if that happens, I must admit I'm afraid too. I'm afraid of what I'm going to lose. You know, I'm going to gain some things and I might lose some things. And you know, throughout this process, my goal has been to be my authentic self. And a wise trans woman once told me, she said, some people, when they come out of the transition, they are not the same people that they started off with. You know, and that Kona was like, well, sure, of course. You're coming in as like a walking corpse male, and you're coming out as a woman. Of course, they're going to be different. But I think what she said was the personality, as you're able to flex and explore parts of your personality into the world around you, you might very well become not necessarily someone else, but you're expanding and deciding who and what you want to be. You're developing your own style. Something that you've never really experienced before, because it was so constricting. This is male. This is only what men can do, and that's what girls can do. And you can't think that way because that's what girls do. You can't be that way because that's what girls are. You have to be rigid, strong, tough. I'm tough. Okay. And so I'm kind of worried about what I might lose as part of me is set free. And what she had said, rewind a little bit, about the person you are at the end of your transition may be very different than the person you are at the beginning. And I guess I want to add that, and here's why. I want to add that as caution. Because if it's true, I see people who get involved in romantic relationships, entanglements, and they're transitioning and they're with someone and that relationship may fall apart because as that person is exploring themselves, who they are, what they really like, that relationship may prevent that development. Whereas if you were single and you looked at the whole world, as scary as it is to be single and look at the whole world as an unwritten, a whiteboard with nothing on it that you can do whatever you want, because now you're a woman. And like I said, before you were contained, now you're set free. And if you're in a relationship with someone, that growth may be, kept in check a little bit. Now, I'm not saying don't date anyone by any means. I'm just saying recognize that you may not have that sense of freedom. And in the same way that a couple maybe was married and divorced and they both changed. People change over time. I'd say just be aware of that. Just be aware of that. But getting back to the voice coach, or the voicing, I'm very, very curious about it. I'm very, very curious to see. You can watch some of my earlier videos on the channel. And, I failed miserably. I failed miserably at trying to sound feminine. I mean, it came out very Judy Tenuta. It came out very, oh, but I'm going to go over here, and I'd like to pick up this sloth. And it almost sounded really kind of fake, because it was. It wasn't the authentic me. And that's part of this discovery, is we're going to find out, or I'm going to find out, what kind of the real me is. And maybe this is a good, this is an opportunity for self-discovery. And so, anyway, that's it. So we'll see what happens. As always, I wish you the best of luck in becoming your authentic self. And as I always caution, don't let anyone try and tell you who you should be and what you should be. Discover for yourself. Give yourself that opportunity to grow and develop and experience who you are. Okay? And enjoy the journey. In some ways it's definitely a second puberty from a chemical point of view, but it is the opportunity to see, like I said, what you like, and I mean, I'm not necessarily saying you're going to go into this liking peas and carrots and come out of it hating it and loving asparagus. I'm just saying you're giving yourself the freedom to explore and develop. So The best of luck to you, and until next time, bye bye.